yeah.
Mickey, what are you dancing to?
I love the intro music.
All right.
Yeah, it's groovy.
All right.
It's groovy. Hello and welcome to episode 41 of Carvers and Creators, a weekly demonstration and discussion with pumpkin carvers, sculptors, and multi-talented artists. We humbly ask that you please consider giving us a like and a follow on the platform you are watching us on. And please let us know in the comments where you're watching from and if you have any questions for the carvers or our special guest. My name is Michael Mondragon. I'll be running the show, moderating comments, and chiming in from time to time. Let's meet the carvers. First, he is not here.
Yes.
But he will be here soon. He is on assignment, as I like to say, but he'll be here shortly. He's currently in Boston traffic. I'm sure letting everyone know on the road how furious he is that he's late. He is an artist and sculptor from Boston, Massachusetts. He's a 2019 champion of Food Network's Outrageous Pumpkins. Soon to be here, Paul Dever.
Hey, Paulie, wherever you are.
Yeah. Maybe he's watching on his phone or something like that. That'd be fun.
There we go.
Next, he's a multimedia sculpture artist from Tucson, Arizona, and a finalist on Halloween Wars 2019 on the Food Network. Matt Harper, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Hey, and speak of the devil, look who is here. Look at that.
No way. Perfect timing. Holy crap.
Look at that handsome devil.
Boston is an S show with traffic right now.
Yes.
I apologize.
Oh, no, please. Our guest tonight is a Cuban-American artist, sculptor, and researcher. His work manifests itself in many three-dimensional mediums, including water and oil-based clay and a variety of waxes, that is. From Tucson, Arizona, Gabriel Vinas. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
We're very, very happy to have you here. And I love your setup, by the way. You have an amazing setup.
Thank you. Took all day.
Yes.
It's not a state. Yeah.
Well, let's get to last week's carvings. Last week was a crazy skull. That's what the wheel decided.
Damn wheel.
Yeah. So, Paul, this is yours. I'm sure you want to talk about this right away.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to right off the bat talk about how much I. No, yeah, it was tough, but I mean, we haven't had to do a skull, which you'd think we would have done a million of them. I honestly, this is probably maybe my second one that was an actual skull. So it actually was harder because you have to think about anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to think about the fact how I don't have the talent to do the anatomy. So I had to kind of, make it my own and whatnot. I tried to kick that jar over a little to give him that crazy underbite. Like,
yeah,
he could be very nice, or he could like mustard on his French fries and give you the
yeah,
and actually kill you. So
love it.
He is crazy. That's awesome, Paul.
Thank you, buddy.
And then Matt, here's yours from last week.
Yeah, basically, Paul and I made Ernie and Bert in skull form. I went. Yeah, there's Bert and there's Ernie. But when it comes to a kabocha squash, you're it is that flatter, wider, squash. But this one gave me fits because it's to your point, Paul. How do you get crazy skull, have it be fun, anatomically quote unquote correct, look like a skull, but also be crazy? So it was I figured the eyes could tell the story a little bit, but anyway, it was a fun one to do. It definitely was a challenge.
I do love the eyelids. I love the puff of the eyelids. It looks great, man.
Yeah. Super cool. And I you know what the first thing that struck me was that it was kind of the hair. That was the way that you did that.
He has hair, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very unique. So, Gabriel, I wanted to introduce you to the fourth member of Carvers and Creators, and it is the hollow wheel, the center spinner. Paul is actually going to spin the wheel and make the deal and see what we will be carving tonight. So let me solo in on you, Paul.
Paul, wait, I just got a quick question. Isn't it funny how we have Gabriel on with us today, and he's like a master. He's teaching classes in what we tried to create last week, which was a skull. So I'm interested to see. I know we have primate on the wheel or something like that. But he also does Neanderthals. He does anyway. The wheel will tell us what to do, but it just maybe we can help push the wheel a direction or two. I don't know. Just a thought.
Maybe I go.
Sorry.
Rogue. Maybe I go rogue.
Matt, you're talking to the right guy.
Oh well, you might know a couple things about that wheel.
I might be able to make this stop on something that we're looking for. Oh, look, guys, a butterfly. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, boop, beep. Oh, look at that.
A primate.
So, I mean, in my opinion, honestly, I think we should, in honor of Gabriel, try and do some form of human evolution, which would be a primate, right?
What?
If it lands on skull again,
let's thumb the scale a little bit. Let's make it a caveman. So we'll do something like
we have
one
caveman
of
on
these.
here.
Wait, caveman's on there. Okay.
Perfect.
So
let's thumb the scale. Maybe go to the green one there, and we could change his emotion as we go. Maybe. I know you did it again, right?
Oh, it landed on caveman. Okay, guys. So we're doing caveman, but what's the emotion? That's the question.
Now, the emotion we can get a little crazy with. Let's do that. So we're gonna go caveman tonight in honor of Gabriel, but he's gonna be watch this shit land on flirty.
Oh yeah, go.
Maniacal caveman.
Maniacal caveman. Maniacal.
Weren't all cavemen maniacal?
No, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think that's
I guess
a lot of our that's our own opinions going back and kind of describing them as less than. I think
I've seen the
sophisticated ones.
Maniacal.
Yeah.
I say we go maniacal caveman tonight.
Maniacal caveman.
And so it shall be. So
thank God, because if it landed on skull or zombie one more time, I would have been a maniacal caveman.
Yeah.
Maniacal.
I would have had trouble.
So it's in the chat, so therefore it is.
Okay. It is now official.
It is now official. Maniacal caveman. If you're going to carve with us, we're going to give you 5 minutes to grab your tools, pumpkin, squash, or any perishable item. And while we do that, we're going to do our ceremonial toast, which has become one of the favorite parts of my week. It means it's almost the weekend, and
yes,
and you get to do the carving oil. I love carving oil.
Carving oil. Yeah, got to loosen up, guys. You got to loosen up.
Yeah,
that's right.
Those parts moving. Yeah.
So I'm sure, Paul, that you dove headfirst. I'm sure when you came in the door, you grabbed something on the way to drink. Am I correct?
I looked like a part of a Olympic baton track and field team where Lenora passed me my beer on the way down the stairs.
Oh, that's true teamwork.
She's the best. I will. And I do have it ready, which is we're gonna go with Idle Hands Brewing out of the mighty Malden, Massachusetts, my hometown, Malden, and it's called Kill Your Idols, Undead Red from Idle Hands. It's a sour ale fermented with cherries and black currants. Also made with dairy products. I don't know how that ties in. And it's 5.6, and I couldn't find IBUs to save my life. Okay. But it is a certain amount of FLOZs, as Matt likes to reference.
Nice. Yes. Now we're talking.
And I have had one previous to this, and it is delicious.
Yes. Just a shade under 17 ounces there.
Just a shade, a smidge, if you will.
Let's go.
So shout out to Idle Hands and mighty Malden.
Gabriel, what do you have tonight?
So I'm having a very simple drink. So this here is just a little bit of gin with some tonic water.
All right. What kind of gin do you go for?
It's I guess unlike the beer that was just shown, this is an organic gin. I think it's called Prairie Gin, so it's vegan, no animal products.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
As mine has dairy product in the beer. What the heck?
Already starting off strong.
My beer's like the worst.
Matt.
I have besides the barking dogs in the background, I've got I went with a Santan Moon Juice Galactic.
I love that one.
Never had it.
I don't think I'm gonna like
one of my
it.
favorites.
I gotta say I'm probably not gonna like this.
No?
But I found out right on the can it's 1.12.0 FLOZ.
Yes.
Whoa.
No,
I actually enjoy. I enjoy the 19-ounce version.
It's too
No,
hot.
no,
All right, go
no.
ahead.
You talk and I'll interrupt. I enjoy a 19-ounce variety of that at Chase Field in Phoenix. That's where you can get that as well.
I opened it. It smells like a dispensary.
Yes. It's very, very hoppy.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
tonight I am having the Bait Ball IPA from Gunwhale Brewing in Orange,
cool can.
California. Super cool artwork on
Big
here.
ball.
Very.
Trying to. It's a 6.6 ABV and not too
I'm
hot.
6'6". That's funny.
That's right. That's
All
that. Yes,
tied
you are.
together.
It
Yeah.
all ties into Matt's height. It really does.
Everything. Well, cheers, guys.
Cheers,
Yes.
everybody.
Cheers, Gabriel. Thanks for joining us.
Salud.
Clink.
Cilantro.
So on.
Kampai.
I need to comb my teeth after this sip of that.
Matt, you got the munchies after a sip of that?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm a little tired.
So, Gabriel, we usually like to start the show, and a lot of people are really fascinated by that kind of workspaces and tools. And luckily, you had a space, your workspace, on here. And
Oh, that's right.
and I think is this where you're at right now, right?
It's actually I'm sitting at the helm of the table. So
Okay.
if you see the background there, you see that like that eyeless being back there.
Yeah.
With the large nose. It's actually the same one that you see there on the left.
Oh, okay.
It's just moved around a little bit, but that's the shelf. So it's like you're looking down at, I guess, from the Batman seat of the table of justice.
Right,
Nice.
it's the Bat Cave.
Yes. I mean, the house came with this like weird wall that you see there in the middle, kind of just breaking up the living room. So I just bought a 4x8 piece of wood, and I was like, all right, I'll claim this. This is where I work now. So, especially after
Gabriel,
when COVID happened. Go ahead.
That piece of wood is worth about $1,500, right?
Yeah. Today's
Actually,
market.
it wasn't that much. It wasn't that much.
You got in right before the deadline. Of
Yeah,
wood
yeah.
going through the roof.
Yeah.
Lumber now is like cryptocurrency, right? It's skyrocketing.
Right, I actually took out a second mortgage to get a 2x4.
Jeez.
Well, and then these are some of your tools that you use, and very similar to what Matt and Paul are using. So, what's your go-to tool in this collection?
You'll see a lot of this tool, which you see there on that picture. So this one here. So
Okay.
this
Yeah, like a
tool right
light.
here
Big loop.
has
Yeah.
so
Kemper.
it's a little loop. It's a ribbon tool, right? And then no, this is from I think Chavant makes this.
Oh, okay.
So these were industry tools for sculpting cars. Just like this one here is a flat with a round end, and then this side has like just a flat 90. So these, and then they have teeth in them. I usually like to work with teeth so I can view like the volumes, the forms, and really try to get them nice and consistent. Some of that I learned, during my time at Ford Motor Company was when I kind of adopted a lot of these tools. Before, it was mostly just like wood tools like this with loops on them. Is mostly what I used to work with. And then, your standard boxwood tools. So
Yeah.
Ford
so you
opened
designed
up my
for
eyes
Ford,
to
huh?
different ways of so Ford Motor Company, I worked there for 4 years modeling cars. So I guess
Wow.
that was like my boot camp to study surface. So now I try to surface, or I take that same mentality to my more organic shapes, where like even though you have, we're supposed to start. Let's go.
Oh, no.
No, you're not
I hear some carving. I thought there
What
was
I'm
like
doing
a.
is called cheating, Gabriel.
I
I was hoping you
thought there was going to be a gun. I thought there was going to be like go, and then
And go.
all right, here we go. Let's go.
Very, very
Nice.
informal.
But I mean,
Hey,
you'll
before-
see it as I build. But I usually consider surface almost as if it was a car until later I put the imperfections in afterwards.
Okay.
So
Wow.
you'll
Can I
see
ask?
it.
Wait, before you cover Gabriel, before you cover it all up, I'm fascinated by that black piece you're putting. You mentioned a 3D carved.
So yeah, this is a 3D printed part where I work with these a lot. These are just your standard 1/2-inch pipes that you can get at Home Depot. So there's a silver, like a aluminum one there. This one's like black iron. I bought these when I built this table just so that everything matches. I'm kind of like that kind of person. But yeah, this was a 3D printed part that just articulates with it. And then this is a standard shape that I've designed that a lot of things are just more modular. So like if I want to take this into another sculpture, I'll just 3D print the part that goes in here, attach that to the armature. So let's say the head I sculpt today, if I want it to become a larger piece eventually, I'll go ahead and do that. I just have to design the male end to this female piece and then, start a larger sculpture from there.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Very cool.
Fantastic.
Well, Gabriel, Matt and I are huge fans of your work just because of the way you're able to go from primate through the whole evolution of a human being. Like, what inspired you to really basically document human evolution? It's amazing.
Thank you. I think it probably started around my first, year of fine arts. What you would call like my first entry level of foray into fine arts. I went to College for Creative Studies in Detroit, and I had a sculpture teacher. His name was Cheeto Johnson, and he kind of just challenged me, like, all right, like, kid, you're good, but like, what is your work about? Like, who cares if it's just a really good head? No one cares. Mm-hmm. Like, and so he basically said, like, all right, like, why are you doing this? So then that was also tied to my, my budding, insatiable 19-year-old that's now in college. He's learning a lot of new things. So I was going down like the philosophical rabbit hole of, angsty 19-year-olds picking up atheism and learning about philosophy. Jean-Paul Sartre, Charles Darwin then came from that. And then I read On the Origin of Species. And it was that, along with just my beginnings of falling in love with anatomy at the time, that then paired with what I was learning about primates and evolution. It's like, oh, like this makes so much sense. Like if you look at the insides of even a cow, like their muscles and our muscles are very, very, very similar. If not identical, there's different proportions. And so then that just kind of took hold of my, artistic mind. And they just became, my philosophical mind and my artistic mind became kind of like teammates. Sidekicks. I don't know who's the main superhero at some times, but that's just how it began. And thanks to him, and also I had a teacher who taught anatomy that he kind of infected me with the bug of learning all the names and the bones. And
oh wow, okay.
So coming from a complete idiot when it comes to anatomy, the actual terms, how long did it take you to memorize most of those terms? Because I spent a good month trying to memorize a lot of the muscle structure and like the certain parts of the skull and I wanted to sound really smart, and then I realized that I can't even say smart.
I think for me, I'll just freely admit this. Like there are a lot of terms that slip my mind. Like at the end of the day, they're terms to me, where what I wanted to do was learn their function and their form. So can I put them on? Can I not tell you what this particular levator that, brings up your lip? Can I tell you the exact name of it? No, but I can sculpt it for you.
Right.
It's a surgeon's job to know the names. And I would even bet my leg that most surgeons also these things slip their minds. So it was more about me learning more about the form and function rather than the names themselves. But obviously there are some that just like they indelibly stick. So I have like one of my favorite ones to say, partially because the name is so fun. It's like the sternocleidomastoideus. So it's like this part of your leg. This part of your neck here. And the way that I remember it is that it attaches to your sternum, clavicle, and mastoid process, sternocleidomastoideus. So some of that is fun, but not all of them have that like mnemonic device.
Right.
See, Paul and Matt, I told you. I've been trying to tell you that, and you didn't believe me. But Gabriel is backing me up here. I always say that to you, that that's the thing that's connected, but you
It's
never
all
believe
about
me.
You do
No,
always say that. You do always say that.
You said I heard you say Cletus or something like that. I thought you were talking about.
Cletus.
I
Yeah.
felt like a genius when I figured out how to say zygomatic arch. That was the extent. I'm like, hey, yeah, that's on a skull.
Hey, in fact, speaking of zygomatic arch, we're gonna put that in right now. So
Nice. Look at these adding the
Arch
zygomatic.
action.
See,
there it is.
I'm
Boom.
jealous of you fellas that I knew that one.
Wow, that's
Nice
impressive.
work.
He's already farther along sculpting.
Yeah, I know.
In
And
10 seconds than I am like of 2 hours. All right, you want to race? You want to race?
sitting-
Dave?
Going slow. Going slow.
Let's
Want me to
race.
put on the gas?
Let's do it. Let's put a timer on. What are we doing again?
What are we
That's
racing
high
for?
gear. I'm talking too much. I'm orating too much. Bloviating, as they would say.
No, this is fascinating. It's fascinating too that someone, you know, and true to form, artists always take, you know, we listen to what people say and like, oh, okay, I'll show you type of deal. Like, you know, it just took someone just saying like, you know, like what are you about? What's your work all about for you just to, I mean, it accelerated you. And I think as artists, we need that person in our life. Definitely give us criticism is one thing, but also pushing you to be more is that's what it does to an artist is great. And obviously you've thrived in that environment.
Accelerating.
Yeah, and that's probably why I guess I have such a value or I get value out of now being an educator myself, where sometimes you don't know when you say a certain thing, how that sticks with a student and how it might manifest itself 2 years from now. So it's like planting a tree you don't get to see. And that's fine. That's part of the beauty of it. And I don't know to what degree I'm affecting, you know, the students that I have. I'm hoping that I'm having some sort of effect. And every now and then I'll have a message that's kind of like, it reminds me, you're doing this for a reason. And you're kind of paying back what debt I still owe to that teacher. That like, he could have just been like, oh, this kid's fine. Like, he's gonna be okay. He's doing like he's excelling at this particular part. Let me just let him do his thing. But no, he said like, oh, there's an opportunity here for him to grow, and he challenged me. And it sounds like a fairy tale story now, but like it was kind of annoying. Like I didn't exactly like that being said.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, like this is not good enough. Or it's good, but just being good is not good enough in the fine arts. Like your work has to be about something. Your work has to speak to people on a different level than like, look how good I am at, you know, sculpting lips. At the end of the day, people are going to ask like, why am I looking at this for?
Yeah.
And I owe him for not doing what would be easier, which is just be like, oh, it's fine. He's just doing the work. He's turning it in. Because at the end of the day, he's the one that taught me that an A+ in the real world doesn't mean anything.
Right.
That's
like no one cares about your GPA. They care about what you bring to the fold afterwards.
No, that's a good point.
So true, and thank God.
Yeah, thank God no one checks my GPA.
That's
anymore.
miles per gallon, right? For those.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm very proud of being a B- student. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jesus, were you umma cum laude?
Yeah, exactly.
in my family, yes.
Umma cum laude.
It's Johnny come lately. I think you're thinking of. No.
Yeah.
Let's get this brow in. Let's get this brow.
Oh yeah,
wow.
I see the brow.
Yeah,
it's all about the brow with the cave.
Yeah, exactly. That's where my head went right to a brow. I got to get a big old nasty brow in there.
See, you know what's kind of awesome and sad at the same time is when I think of a caveman. When I was a kid, I would think of like the anthropology books and going to the Museum of Science, and then Geico came out with the best commercial series ever with the caveman.
Yeah.
And now when I think of a caveman, I think of the dude walking through the airport and then walking back and looking at the sign. So easy a caveman can do.
Yeah.
That's
He's wearing a
amazing.
cardigan. He's wearing a cardigan sweater and like he's like
He's trying to live his life, you know.
yeah.
That's all. No big deal.
Now look at it.
Yeah, actually, now that you point that out, actually, I have to write that down and remember it because right now I'm part of this little group that we're getting together to write a paper on like how we do view the past and how maybe we do project a little bit about like our either insecurities or our biases onto them and assume they're a certain way. So Geico was kind of like ahead of their time where it's like they cast someone as a Neanderthal, basically saying that like that's offensive. Like what for you to say like, oh, even a Neanderthal could do it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of great that it was such a long while ago, but like this paper, this research is going to be about the biases involved in portraying our ancestors or our analogous ancestors, because technically we don't come exactly from Neanderthals, but it's still indicative of, a species that still struggles with racism and all sorts of isms and misogyny that, we do without even knowing. We look down on these primitive people, even use words like that. And I think part of my work is to undo some of that stuff because they don't deserve it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And if you remember correctly, Phil Hartman was the caveman lawyer.
Yes.
Unfrozen caveman lawyer. I'm just a simple caveman. What do I know?
What do I know? I don't have your technology or your.
And I believe the term you're looking for is getting eaten by a dinosaurism is what cavemen struggled from originally.
Yeah.
Get into caveism.
Because everybody knows from Land of the Lost, that's what happens.
Yeah,
You know?
right.
Yeah, it's a documentary, right?
Right. It's more of a documentary. Right. Sid and Marty Krofft were way ahead of their time, I think. But you don't see much in the way of slee stacks when you're digging up.
No, not anymore.
Skulls. Yeah,
not anymore.
Or witchy poos.
So now let's dive into a little. What's your relationship with Ray? Because I know Ray really loves your stuff. And
God,
who doesn't? Obviously, who doesn't? It's amazing. Like it's honestly, you're one of my favorite artists on Instagram for that reason of you walk through the steps of evolution, but you're able to do so many different jobs. You can just with one hand do what it takes me with 14 hands to get accomplished in half the time. So like, how did you and Ray hook up?
So Ray and I, it goes back, it's kind of crazy to think about, when I was in my, I think, second year of college. So this is after all this stuff started happening for me in the sense of like the content of my work and how I was developing. I wanted to break into that like collectible industry. So, like sculpting superheroes and stuff, like collectibles, stuff like that.
Commercial,
yeah. And I someone had mentioned that there was a local artist that does that, Ray, because Ray used to live in Detroit or around there. I think it was like Madison, or wherever he lived. It was in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And so I kept emailing him. I guess, persistence, it pays off.
Consistency is key.
Yeah. So I sent him like about 3 emails and he responded to the third one. And I think it was out of like he needed someone to do something, like to help him out with something. And then kind of like on a whim, like I accepted. I'm like, oh, this is kind of like an internship. It's unpaid, but I'm going to go and learn it. And he basically said like, I live in Arizona now. You can, if you book a flight, like I'll hook you up here for like a week or however long it was, 10 days maybe. And we kind of just like hung out for 10 days and it was like a crash course on a lot of these different ways of making. So like wax sculptures and stuff like that. And then he kind of gave me the little bug of like, hey, this coming, because it was the summer, this coming fall, you got to carve some pumpkins. And I said like, okay. Like I was never that into it, but I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then that following autumn, I guess, it was like the first time I carved. And then a producer from Food Network called me up. And then like that December, after starting carving basically in October or whenever it was, August, they said like, all right, come on season 3 of Halloween Wars. And the rest was history. But like Ray and I kind of just kept tabs and we kept talking and I visited again. And then eventually I jumped over here. He kind of like hired me for some jobs here and there along like with my college degree. And then when I graduated and I was ready to continue my studies, which now I'm at ASU about to finish up my master's degree, I came over here mainly because the school has such a rich, or at least it seemed like what they really promoted was like this cross between art and science and this interdisciplinary way of working. So, and they liked my work. So you kind of go where they say, hey, so here's some open arms. They gave me quite a bit of funding. So it was basically an MFA almost for free. So I'm kind of grateful for that.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
And then over the course of being here, my relationship with Ray has just continued to blossom and into the fun and sometimes energetic arguments that we get into. We kind of like debating. I'm a chronic debater. If the room is calm and there's enough like 4 people, I'll agitate with a hot topic, and I just like, because I like to know what people think, why they think it, and if they have different ideas than me, I want to learn. So
Sure.
if I can learn, like even if it's a position that I hold that I'm very, very confident in, the only way to sharpen up a good sword is to use it.
Argue about it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That almost plays into what you do anyway, which is basically the evolution of your mind, right? You see, you're almost evolving and taking in other points of view. So very cool, very commendable.
And yeah, I mean, I was raised pretty religious, and that was just part of, like, there was like this Caribbean flavor Baptist like kind of thing. So like, so it's kind of like American Baptists, where it's like a party and then a sermon.
Yeah,
Cubans do a similar thing.
A little bit of booze.
Yeah, Cubans do a similar thing. So I was raised in that, and I took it really seriously because, if this is true, then this is a big deal. So I took that idea seriously, and then eventually I fell out of love with it. But ever since then, it's just been about like updating the software, I guess. If you call our ideas our software, I don't pretend to know everything, but as I go, I learn, and my perspective has changed a lot. And just even this year, like there are things you learn and pick up and adjust your behavior and your belief system. And
I think especially in the last year or so, we've learned a lot about where we are as people, especially with everything that went on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
You see how people react to these terrible situations. Although now I want to say I am vaccinated with both vaccines, so I can tell you right now it hasn't helped my golf game. So
you took the wrong shot.
A Pfizer or whatever I got.
You took the wrong one. You're supposed to take the one laced with horse steroids. I think that's the one that helped.
Yes, I asked for Tiger Woods' blood, and they did not.
And the Phil Mickelson one is for left-handers, right?
No, you took the wrong one.
That's a golf joke. That's a golf joke, everyone.
Well, I'm left-handed, but I play golf righty, so what a waste of 2 appointments.
There you go. Phil Mickelson went to ASU, so there you go.
There we go. It's all tied together.
Yeah. Knows that Gronkowski went to ASU as well, right?
U of A. Come on, get it right.
Yeah, that's sacrilege. You can't say that.
Yeah, it's like you can't say those 2 schools.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Didn't Gronk just catch a football recently, Gabe, at your school?
Yeah, they threw a.
They threw it out of a helicopter, I think.
Helicopter, 600 feet up. Yeah.
I've got
no big deal. No big deal. He learned that in New England, just so you know. He didn't do that when he was in Arizona. He learned that in New England.
Thanks for teaching him that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now he's in Tampa, so he's probably never going to be able to catch again. I hope. Good for Gronk.
He caught one in the Super Bowl.
I love Gronk, man. Guy could do no wrong.
Yeah.
Yo soy fiesta.
Yeah.
Maybe
Jesus, Gabe, slow down. You're making us look.
I know. Look at this. It's fascinating. Wait, I'm just going to solo him for the rest of the show.
Thank you.
Oh, don't show it yet. Don't show it. It's not ready. It's not ready.
I actually keep referencing his to be like, Jesus, I'm way out of proportion with mine. Mine looks like a butternut squash with a face on it.
This is fascinating to watch this.
Yeah. So, Gabe, what was your how did you feel about carving pumpkins? Because obviously you had to dive right in with the guy that's considered the godfather, right? So,
right.
I mean, what a great apprenticeship, really, if you will, right? Trial by fire, really.
Yeah,
jump on in, get your tools out.
Yeah, I mean, he was very encouraging. He really wanted me to, really do it. I to my discredit, I never took it that seriously, and I never religiously did it every season. The one that you brought up, the what's it called, the more ape-like one that you saw was a Paranthropus poesia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ancient species, right? That one was the latest one that I did. That was most recent. It was last season, or the season before the apocalypse, so before COVID. So
the apocalypse. Oh, you had it right with apocalypse.
That one, that was the last time I carved. That was the first time I'd carved in maybe, I don't know, something like 3 years.
Wow.
Because it's just not something that I kept up. And it was never so. I guess I didn't like the limitations of I can't go all the way through, and I don't know if you can tell by just the way that I'm working here. I just slap it on, I take it off, I put it on. I have this very back and forth way of putting clay on and off, and it's just the way that I work. That when I have that limitation, you can only go negative. It's just like something I don't want to think about, but I know that that's part of the charm. So I do respect it as an art form. It's just that's something that I never took to its like logical conclusion, which is like, all right, let's make this the best it can possibly be.
No, I understand fully what the limitations are, and I think that it would stunt your creativity if you had to do that all the time, right? Like if you had to completely think about how thick the material is, like you said, you're building up, taking back, building up, taking back. There's no limitations. And obviously your ability to construct anatomy is at like a breakneck speed. It's amazing to watch you work. Whereas Matt and I need like a break and like a day or two to collect ourselves before we finish so that we don't break through. Like we need to walk away from it to say, all right, so I have this much material left. This is the direction I'm going. Do I like where I'm going? You can actually change on the fly because it looks like you're using a really, really pliable material. Is that?
Well, it's really hot. Yeah.
Is that your
he's got Sculpey hard, or super Sculpey, right? Or what are you doing? Monster?
No, it's Monster Clay.
Monster
hard.
Monster Clay gray. Is that medium?
It's gray and hard. I only use hard because you can always go softer with heat.
So it's really hot in Arizona, is what I'm seeing by watching you.
Right.
That is soft.
That's room temperature.
Yeah, I usually keep the AC off when I'm sculpting. You know, it gets the blood going, sweat it. You know, it's a very physical activity. You know,
I'm sweating watching you work, and it's 50 degrees here.
50. Send that back here, Paul.
No way.
I think it got to 100 in Phoenix today. So
did it really? Boy, I missed that. I missed that by days. So Gabe,
I also think like that. To go back to that point about the pumpkins, though, there was something that I did find, like that same limitation or that same fighting the material that you can only go in one direction. I actually rebirthed that kind of frustration with my residency from Italy, where I carved marble for the first time. So it's like carving pumpkins again, but in this case, it's stone. You can't put the stone back on when you take it off.
Yeah.
So it was definitely like carving pumpkins again, but is like not fleshy. It was just more hard. But that took like a different mental exercise. But the benefit that I have with this sculpture that you have on there is that I did that sculpture in clay first. Then I digitally scanned it, and then these like multi-axis, 5-axis milling technologies, they take a block of marble and they rough it in really close, like it's called like milling full. So they mill it to the point where there's a little extra material everywhere, but it's already dialed down to nearly what you already sculpted or carved or
oh my gosh, wow,
scan that I did of the actual one. And so when I got there before the residency started, that was already started for me. So I had a month to complete it. Wow. Not to take any work away from everyone that was there. A month sounds like a long time to finish a marble sculpture, but it was like down and dirty every day trying to get as much done as possible. It was still quite the process, but what these milling technologies, what they do is they remove a few months of work, you know, which is great.
Okay.
In baseball, they call that a season suspension.
Yeah.
I wish somebody would do that for me. I got to be honest, sometimes, because that is absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, this one is absolutely. This is so stunning to me. I mean, not only the subject, but the cloth. I mean, it reminds me of like a, Renaissance piece where there's Jesus laying in cloths and. You struggle to believe that it's marble. It takes your brain is like, so wait a minute, that's not just draped across her body and her face, and it's just stunning. It's just so. Anyway, I'm just completely.
I mean, that was exactly the vibe that I was going for in sense of like what I was referencing. So I kind of asked myself, like me as this researcher that's now like kind of in love with science and the dance and art and science. What does it mean for me to go to? The proving grounds of the sculptors that I looked at when I was a kid to emulate, right? So you want to be like Bernini, like Michelangelo, want to be that good. And what kind of piece would I do if I were to go over there? So then it basically clicked. Like it just made sense that, all right, I'm going to deify, like make a almost like what you would call a deity statue of
Deity, yeah.
Like Lucy's very much touted and very much talked about as like the grandmother of humanity, right? Which the jury's still out. The jury's still out whether or not we come from Australopithecus afarensis. Could very well be, but still, like she's very much like the Virgin Mary of science, right? So it made sense for me to portray her in this way, and it was also about like the Western gaze, like Western science. When we look at objects, we read them and categorize them in a certain way that's built on our society, like our Western viewpoint. And Western sculpture looks like this. So it was more about like how I'm looking at trying to discover what humanity is about through that Western lens. So it's like very much a celebration of those things all together. So that's what, and then the product is.
No, I love your description of that, because that it totally drives home where my mind was going, where that, when you look at a classic sculpture like that by Michelangelo, or really anyone, and you see the human form, and to see a non-human, I guess it's human, Neanderthal. I'm trying to think of the right word, but
it's actually Neanderthal. I mean,
thank you. Yeah, don't know.
She's an Australopithecus. She's an Australopithecus. Which is about 3 to 4 million years ago.
Okay. Yeah,
Neanderthals were like yesterday.
Got it. Okay.
Basically.
Okay.
Are you sure?
They were more human. I don't know this stuff.
They were very much human.
Okay.
Did they really have breasts like that? That's what I want to know.
I don't know for sure. See, in that case, this was part of like that one that we did. I collaborated, and we did that very early on in our career, where we didn't start to write papers and develop new methods. So she was very much a highly speculative model of Lucy. And I guess since you calling that out, like we're the only mammal that have what you would call always showing breasts. So like our cousins, the bonobos and the chimps, only when they're basically pregnant or they're ready for some sort of action to go down, then they show. It's almost like a perpetual attraction to mates, like for males. And as I understand it from the scientists that explained it to me, they're always on, basically, like the breasts of human women, because we are a more collaborative species. So there's less infighting over mates, something like that, right? So we said like, all right, Lucy should probably have breasts like humans, if their culture or like their interactions were anything like ours. That's not to say we're peaceful or that they were either, because obviously we're not. We kill each other left and right.
Right, but Lucy looks like the Heidi Klum of today. Like Lucy's got it going on, kind of deal.
Yeah.
like it's almost like a beautiful cross between the old and the new, in a way that's like, hey, that's a monkey's face, but it's got boobs.
Yeah, I guess that's like my artistic ploy to get people to like.
Correct. It's just it's outstanding, and the sheet to go over it is, like Matt said, it's mind-boggling.
It's higher level thinking.
Right, and
I do think that's that objection that sometimes it's been levied against me. Like, why are you making her attractive? And it's like, in my mind, I was like, why does that bother you so much? Right. So I kind of like that people are like, why is she hot? And it's like, why you find her hot? That's kind of weird.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's kind of weird.
What's your problem, pal?
Exactly. And I felt like that kind of like turn of phrase is part of like what I'm doing with this series of work, which is ennobling them a little bit, where we do so little of that. We do so little of showing, I guess, what their humanity, when we categorize them and we assign them as new species and we call them specimens, and we almost like we're always at like arm's length to other animals. And I think that's reflective in how we treat non-human animals, which is becoming more and more of a part of my work and the way that I think about the world, since I believe since the start of the year I've been vegan. So that's part of my ethical framework now includes non-human animals. So I think to ennoble them just a little bit without overstepping the boundary of like, I'm not gonna make them outrageously human because we don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
And I don't think that was
blurring
your
that line.
goal. I don't think that was your goal to find her sexuality. So I think they took it to a different place.
Yeah. Hey, now you're finding out which one of your friends are really into interspecies relations.
I
Maybe
believe
that's
they
it.
call that bestiality now.
Is that what they call it? So Gabriel, are you planning on doing more marble? Because I would love to see another. I mean, these are just stunning. I love all your stuff, but I'd love to see more marble too.
I am very much planning to do more marble, and I actually
Nice.
want to go back. It's the residency. The residency is called Digital Stone, and it's open to all artists and all educators and students. So it's like a group of people. I think around 20 students. 20 individuals. So students. It's mostly students, but educators and professional artists go as well. And you stay in Italy at this hotel that's next to where they mill the stone. Like they mill the stone, and then you just go and you stay there for 4 weeks, and then you just carve every day. You get up, carve. There's some tours here and there where you get to go see the cities, but it's mostly like in residency artist, like artist in residency kind of deal where you're there and you're just working.
Wow.
Nice.
So I definitely want to go back and do more of that.
Matt, when should we tell our wives that we're going to Italy?
Bad news is best come. You just got to
Like when
dish
we're already
it
there?
right now. We got to dish it right now. Yeah.
Just send them a
I'm gonna be
postcard.
home tonight or the next 4 weeks. I might have forgot to tell you this, but I'm in Italy.
Yeah.
And,
Whoops.
but it's
Well, you're
all
early. You'll have a long time to figure that out because the next availability that's open is probably like 2020.
6. Yeah.
2023. Because right now they're like backlogged because they had to cancel last year.
Oh, sure.
And I'm on deck for the year after, so now I have to probably adjust a little bit. But yeah, they're kind of booked for the next 2 years, it seems. But you never know. People drop out. But yeah, I'll give you all the link if you want to look at it. If you really want to do it, it's open for everyone. All you have to do is sculpt something, scan it, or build it on the computer, and then if they choose basically you give a proposal of what you want to do.
Got it.
And they accept 20 individuals.
How do they feel about middle-aged guys that carve butternut squash? That must jump right to the top of the list, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to Ray about doing a pumpkin carving, but in marble, where it looks like a pumpkin, but it's also like, that conversation fizzled out or whatever. But I don't imagine it would be something that it would be looked down upon, I guess, since that you kind of made it as a joke, but I think it would make for a pretty cool piece.
Gabe, you're going to figure out that most of the stuff I say is kind of half in jest, but half a compliment. I can't say a serious thing to save my life. Yeah, so how do you feel about him going to space? You might be the new Ray in Arizona, or if Ray's up in space.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Depending on the timing of it all.
Yeah, Dear Moon. Right.
We gotta get you up in space.
Hey, don't send all the artists.
Put a marble statue. Put a marble statue of Lucy on the moon.
Oh my
gosh.
The moon.
That's what I'm talking about. That'd be sweet.
That would be pretty crazy if you think about it. But
now
I got a few years ahead of me. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have plenty of time.
Stay on Earth for a little while, then go.
Yeah.
So when you think of the sculptures between, say, an early, whatever it's before Neanderthal, but when you go early human to more modern day human, what are the differences in the skull that you find to be the most prevalent?
See, the thing about that is that if you think about species, it's more of like a categorization tool, where if we really think about it, the differences between individuals. So like if we were to take Matt's skull and Paul's skull, and
Matt's skull's way bigger.
But I'm just saying they would look pretty different. But in terms of Neanderthal skulls and our skulls, there are some traits that you identify, which is why they're categorized separately. But there's a lot of overlap in terms of like what they look like, and even what modern day. Let's talk about an indigenous tribe that has its own traits, like the Aborigines in Australia. They have distinct look, but they're still very much human. Like we would never categorize them. But so I'm saying, like even within a species, there's so much variation. that really pinpoint like, oh, they had this trait.
Right.
It's mostly like cherry picking for an arbitrary reason, because there's so many more similarities that to just like focus on the differences, it's just not, and it's also not exactly my area of expertise.
Well, like
so I really wouldn't know if there was an answer. I wouldn't be the person.
Right, but the brow bone, like the difference in the brow bone from like
it does seem that the brow has
skull.
receded. Yes,
like extremely compared to what, and just even the orbital bone, like where everything sits, seems it's amazing. It's so much closer to the top of the skull. It seems. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's the way I see it.
No, there's definitely been an inflation of the prefrontal cortex, and then just the brain generally is more like the volt is higher. Those kinds of changes definitely did occur, especially if you talk about humans before, I guess what you would call anatomically modern humans, which is just around 200 to 300,000 years ago, around there.
Yesterday.
Yeah, there's definitely an increase, and it probably has to just do with like modern agriculture. There's grains all over the place. We can cook. Just frees up. There's some scholarship on it in terms of like our diet helping, but I don't know exactly.
Close enough.
Maybe that was a cue for me to crack a joke, but I failed.
So when it comes,
I went full professor mode, and I shouldn't have.
Listen, honestly, I'm so happy you agreed to do this because I've been dying to ask these questions to somebody that actually knows what the answer is gonna be. Because Matt and I halfway through make like a boob joke.
Yeah.
Levity is important.
So
I mean,
you're giving me the
but
answer,
to be quite honest, like there are a lot of things that I just don't know. Like, and I'm not even the guy to ask.
Sure you
I'm
are.
sure there was a little tidbit I said there that someone's gonna be like, actually, and then I'm like, all right, yeah, sorry.
But you're the guy. You're the guy in the ballpark. So like,
right.
You would have the most. You have an opinion for sure.
Yeah, I'm designated hitter or whatever, right?
Yes, exactly.
There you go.
Did I get that reference right? I've never seen a baseball game in my life.
Okay. Good night, everyone. We're gonna shut down this.
There it is.
It's been a great Carvers and Creators.
I do watch soccer though.
Okay. Let's go. Who's your favorite player?
Well, it depends. Depends on when you ask. But I think not who I think is the best, but definitely my favorite player is Andres Iniesta.
Okay.
He's nearly retired now, but he's a Spanish midfielder. He actually scored the winning goal for the 2010 World Cup.
Okay.
Oh,
you know.
He was just a magician. He was under the radar. He did everything right, not too flashy. It was just beautiful.
Like Messi.
But obviously, Messi. If you had to ask me, Messi is the guy.
Messi.
I'll be right back. I gotta grab another tool. I broke one.
/ beer. Got it.
Working too hard. Working stiff.
How long we got? Because I got to start emoting this guy. He doesn't look very maniacal. He's kind of at
we have about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Isn't that crazy?
No problem. I'll get the textures in no time.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Wow, this guy's like Deion Sanders. He's like doing like these high kicks. He's like, I'm all over this.
All right, here we go. Let's start. See, and this actually is something about my process. I try to instill this in my students. Don't use tools for like the first hour if you can help.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just use your tools. These here.
Fingers.
Yeah.
They were crafted over hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. Trust them a little bit.
Right.
Don't just go for the tool. So, and then from here, now I have less work to do. I'm just pushing it around. I'm creating the creases.
Yeah. So
do you show them these when you use these?
Yeah. Use these hands.
Yeah.
Use was it opposable thumb?
That's actually a hand casting. I had to redo all the fingertips, but that was like a life casting from one of my coworkers from Ford.
Oh wow.
Larry Tailford is his name. Yeah. Shout out to Larry.
They do look like Larry's hands now. That looks just like totally Larry reminiscent thing. Yeah.
They were actually part of a piece that I was doing with a journalist friend of mine, photographer. We were gonna do like a life-size Donald Trump doll. So like it was like a doll. So those were his hands. Those would be his hands. the project kind of like fell to the wayside because we're both pretty busy, and then that was around the time when I was applying for ASU.
Okay.
But I guess that was the intention behind those hands.
Okay.
If that helps.
Okay. I could see a little the pointing finger thing. I get it.
Yeah. I was gonna.
Gabriel, when you did Halloween Wars, I know it was kind of in its infancy, and I had my little fun trip on that. And I think it we could go on for hours about like what reality TV is when it comes to actual reality. But all that said, did you have a good experience on there, or was it kind of just like tons of pressure and little reward?
Well, I mean, I hate to spoil it for people. I mean, but we won, so I guess it was definitely rewarding in that sense. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone was just I was also very lucky. So I had 2 team members that were really, really cooperative. We had this one, not dust up, but just like of all the things that could have gone wrong, we just had a disagreement once. It was never on camera. We never fought on camera. So I guess to the producers, that was like an L for them. Like they didn't like it. They didn't. They I guess they kind of asked like, "Hey, come on."
Yeah, same here.
More aggressive, and that came out a lot in that last episode where I was talking smack at the other pumpkin carver, which I know in real life. He's an awesome guy, but it was just it was good. It was good. No one treated me badly or anything like that. I was very grateful to be there. Remember, I was also 19.
Wow! Wow! Okay.
So, all right, 19, I think. So I was very much learning on the job, especially since that was the first year I had ever carved. Luckily, I was leaning on mostly my clay and portraiture work. Okay. And it worked in my favor, I guess. But I was really not that skilled at maneuvering and piecing together pumpkins. But it worked. We got lucky. Our idea.
Yeah, I found myself doing a lot less pumpkin carving, more like armatures and building. Building really all things that weren't pumpkin. I mean. But the time I actually got to do pumpkin, it was fine. But then you would turn around and paint them and mount them. It was just strange.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, I freely admit it. All I wanted to do was sculpt with the modeling chocolate. I wanted to sculpt, even though you could argue that the cake person that I had was like the best cake person on the show, which is great. She's
okay.
Sarah
that helps.
Her name. But I kept looking over at the modeling chocolate. I'm like, oh, man,
I want that. Yeah.
Right, that looks good.
But then I But I definitely really wanted to try some. I don't think I ever really sculpted anything with it, but I think it'd be fun at some point.
Yeah.
Sculpt with.
And then you can just eat it,
Only if there's no dairy or milk and.
Oh, that's true. Well, I think that stuff's so chock full of chemicals. No one knows what's in it. So.
Just brown goo.
Brown, waxy.
So he's looking very peaceful, so let's make him a little more.
What's our guy got to be? He's got to be maniacal, right?
Maniacal,
yes.
Right?
Maniacal. Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's twist his face.
Maniacal caveman.
You ready? Because right now he's very zen. He's very centered. Yeah. Very Buddhist.
Let's uncenter the guy.
Very mindful. All right, you ready? Transformation time.
Oh wow. All right, so this will be the next half hour. I'm just going to solo him.
Yeah, thank you, man. All right. No need for us.
Yeah. Is this double speed? What's going on here?
Oh, sorry. I have this tick where when I get.
No, it's just an illusion. It looks like you're going super fast. It's really fascinating.
Right. If you just tuned in, Gabe is in normal speed.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And if you just tuned in, why did you join so late? That's what I'm.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's a good point as well.
Come on.
Hey, they're here though. It's all right. We'll take them.
That's it.
It's not about when you arrive. As long as you arrive.
That's it.
Mickey, do we have any
nuggets?
Any friends on here that have questions for him? I know we're lucky, Gabriel. We got a lot of good quality folks who watch our show regularly, and we love to ask the questions and steal the spotlight. But Are there any friends on here, Mickey? That
McFrazzlestash was asking the clay, and we talked about that before. So it's the sculpting clay, right?
No, this is monster
clay, and then you heat it up in the microwave, correct?
Yeah, monster clay. If you're out there, hit me up.
Yeah, well, yeah, right.
Yeah.
There you go.
I recommend clay all the time.
Sponsor this guy.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, by microwave you mean Arizona, right? Basically,
leave it out in the sun, right?
Just turn the AC
they do
off
say
like
not
you
to
would
microwave it, but
do they say not to microwave it? Oh, I kind of
but I know why. It's because like the center gets really, really hot, and then the top is not that hot, and then you stick your hand in there, and then you get a scar like the one I have right here.
Really?
Because it bursts out and it boils your skin. Like basically, like the core becomes this molten lava. So after I learned that, then you just let it sit for a little while.
Got it.
And you're good. You just wait for the heat to dissipate. But technically, you're supposed to put it in the oven. But that's like a big old time investment, and sometimes I like to just go.
I heard crock pots are really good. Like throw it in a crock pot, like on a low heat, and then you always have it warm next to you.
Oh. Yeah, actually, I used a crock pot for some piece like a long time ago, but we use automotive clay because in Detroit, I guess automotive clay comes out of the sewers. So
nice.
we just
it comes out of the pipes in Flint.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah.
It's called poo, gentlemen. It's called poo.
A crock pot also good for stew.
Oh, there we go.
Wait,
Gabriel. So when you talk about the because I picture those when they had the 1984 Ford Taurus, when that and it shows the guy looking down the line of that beautiful curved back. So did you from a prototype perspective, did you enjoy working on those things and or what was your? I'm clear you're not doing that anymore, but I'd love to know more about how you got into that.
I have a very rose-colored glasses memory of my time at Ford. I know that there was a lot of times where it was really annoying, particularly like I don't like cars. So like I like cars as like a technological object in society, and it's amazing that human beings came up with it. But I'm more into like that being interesting than cars themselves. Like I'll drive a fridge with wheels. I don't care. Like it doesn't have to.
That would actually be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there's not that there's not beauty in cars. I totally admit that there totally is, and it's an art form. And some people that I met when I was there, like they're artists in their own right, like fantastic sculptors, and that's what they're really into, and that's great. But since I felt like it just wasn't for me, I couldn't stay there forever. But I will say that definitely like the way that I now go about my approach for sculpting, surfacing, and just viewing this as like a surface, which eventually, maybe I should get into it because we're running out of time here. Like how I would surface this is now fully informed by my 4 years. Basically, I call it my second degree. So I went to Ford College for 4 years, and I basically learned all these amazing techniques.
You went to FU, Ford University.
FU.
Ford University, FU. That's pretty good.
I mean, but that's such an amazing. I mean, it's so different than what you're doing now, but you're applying a lot of these things with such enthusiasm. It's pretty cool to hear you talk about the way you're applying stuff that has nothing to do with anatomy, and you're able to use what you learned.
Yeah. So like this tool here, this is something I would use mostly like in interiors when we're sculpting the interior of the car. But like this, I'm going to go through here. And then I'm going to start raking this here.
Okay.
And I'm going to continuously find that like very consistent surface only to break it later and put in the imperfections. But if you look at anyone's arm, their forehead, it's pretty consistent, like a car.
Yeah.
And these like little bumps you're going to form here and there. Yeah, you can leave those if you want. But see, like right now I'm patching up a hole that was there. That's very much something that I learned how to do there, where you patch the hole because there was a low spot. Because what the teeth show you is where the low spots are. So like if I go across right here, you see where it's missing?
Yeah.
I either keep raking until that dark spot disappears, or I add clay there.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's very much something I learned 100% from my time at Ford and the fantastic sculptors that I was lucky to learn from.
Wow.
Such a great tool. Now, you said that's a Chavant tool, huh?
Yeah, this is made by Chavant. It doesn't come with teeth on it, so you have to file those in yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They'll still charge you an arm and a leg.
Wow. Right. Yeah. No kidding. The majority
they're like $60.
$60.
Oh, uh-oh.
All right, spoiler alert. I'll have them available by next show for $50.
But these
Makes
though,
it everything.
these are nearly free. You can make these yourself. They're just guitar string.
Guitar string. I have some with bass.
Oh yeah, I've got some of those too. Those are Mike's tools,
So
right?
these do the same thing. So I made this one just by following a YouTube video, but it does a very similar thing, where
but a finer grain.
Telling
almost.
you where you see those low spots.
Yeah.
I'll just go like this because I want that zygomatic arch to show.
The zygomatic arch.
I got more
zygo.
Show there. So now
my zygote's way off.
Zygotes.
Your zygote's way off, Matt.
And then
Sorry.
I cross hatch, finding the lows and highs.
So what is the course you teach? What's the name of it?
So I've been teaching at ASU now about 2 years, so 4 semesters worth of 3D design is what it's called. But basically, it's, if I had to rename it, just so that people understood exactly what I meant, because 3D design kind of sounds like very digital to me. It sounds like
it's
basically an intro. It's an introduction to thinking 3-dimensionally. So we do projects with wire, projects with cardboard, just to get students out of the mindset of the very easy mindset when you first start art.
2D.
You normally don't go right into 3D.
Right.
You're thinking in 2 dimensions. So it's about getting them to think in 3 dimensions through various exercises and various ways of making. And I introduce 3D printing and things like that, just to like broaden their horizon of what's possible. And it's an entry-level course.
Okay.
Now, the other thing that I'm developing right now that I'll be teaching late June, early or full of July is figure sculpting and anatomy is the name of the course, but I'm kind of lobbying to get it changed because it's a little too broad. But we're going to basically be systematically going through all the muscles of the face and the head.
Oh, wow.
And building a portrait from the skull out. So the skull, I think if I pull this away, you see that gray skull in the back there?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be working on that thing, which is a scan of this one here. So it's a scan of that, and I've made it into a model that you can sculpt on. So I'll be sculpting a life-size version, but all of my students will get a slightly smaller. I might go 3/4 size or half scale, depending on what the resources are like, because I have to 3D print them. Which the school is very good about facilitating. There's like a whole maker space that prints stuff out for students. So I'll probably use that resource, but everyone will be able to follow along. And the videos will be like this, where they're looking at me doing it, and I'm explaining like what the muscles do, their form and their function, and they're from the comfort of their own home, because it's an eye course, they get to sculpt out the anatomy from the skull out without having to worry about like, oh, did I sculpt the skull correctly? Well, the skull's given to you. So like the chance of failure is really low unless you just don't show up. You know, if you show up, you're going to get some anatomy on there, you know, and that's all right. Because that's more what I want it to be about. You're learning anatomy, you're learning, you know, it's like a facet of science, but you're learning it in a tactile way. So it's my hope that this course, when it develops further, it attracts outside of art members. So like people that are taking or like doing pre-med or whatever, just so that they learn them the anatomy of the human body, not just by reading a book and labeling the muscles, but also putting them on themselves. It's just a form of like, I think it's called kinesthesia or whatever. Like when you learn something using your hands, some people learn, they retain the information better when they actually perform the thing rather than just reading about it.
Right.
So that's what my intention is with that course.
Well, let me ask you this. What's the password to the course?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Well,
I really need to take this course.
And we have requests. Can you please come up to Prescott and teach at Yavapai College? Matt Harper went to Yavapai College. Am I correct on that, Matt?
Hey.
No, God, no. I did not go there.
No, you didn't.
I drove through there in my entire trip to the canyon. I feel like everything was Yavapai National Forest. That's a big place.
Well, thank you very much, Jody. I mean, that would be amazing. Right now, I'm very much partial, and my my resources are going to ASU because they're the ones that are hosting me, and I'm going to graduate in November. Well, technically December. I'll be graduating with my master's and putting up my thesis show up. But then afterwards, like since I am designing this course from the ground up, not really using employees of the university, I am going to offer this for outside of college people. So it'll be a class that I teach online all over, like maybe like over the course of the month, we're going to do this portrait and we log on Zoom or even StreamYard or wherever it is, right?
Yeah.
Basically together as a class, like let's say it was the 4 of us, like we would just be systematically making the portrait over the course of, maybe like twice a week, something like that,
Well, let me ask you this. So do we get dibs over everybody else that's signing up while we have to carve and they're already signing up for the class? Because I would be pissed if everybody else got into the class and we couldn't because we were doing this and everybody signed up behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm like it's like I'm interviewing the artist and it's the best thing ever. And then behind the scenes, he talks about a shop and it's already full from everybody watching.
Yeah, you jerks, they better not jump on there.
Yeah, you know what? The countdown starts after the show ends. So
that's right. So stay away from your computer, people.
Throttle back, Turbo. All right, we get first dibs at this.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, don't worry. You'll get I'll let you cut the line.
My man.
Thank you. All right.
Wow. My man.
We're here first. All right, we're good.
I'm gonna know all those muscles that I forget every single time I remember the name.
No, but the thing I love about what his description was is not knowing the names as much as just knowing what they do.
What they do. Yeah. Right. Well, it's the same thing, right? I couldn't tell you the name of a street around me, but I can get home.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. It's like you would you rather have a doctor that knows all the veins names or one that's just really good at cutting them and putting them back together to save your life? He knows he doesn't. But he doesn't know. I mean, I'm sure there are doctors that do both quite well, but I'm sure there are some that like, oh yeah, the big one. You do this and that, and then like they're just like a genius at putting people's hearts back together. But I'm sure they forget the scientific name from time to time because that's the less important thing.
That is so true. That's exactly.
Do you think they bust each other? Like they're like, you don't even know the name of this, do you? As they're like doing it.
Right, but they yell it from each other's Maseratis as they're racing down Miami.
Right.
No, you don't even know the name of that muscle.
The one thing I always
remember. One thing I've learned. If there's one thing I've learned, it's definitely that like middle school and high school like conflicts. No one grows out of it. It's always found somewhere in the institution.
Hell yeah.
Sometimes it boggles my mind that
we're all a bunch of kids.
Institutions of such high learning have, certain tendencies. But I think it's just human nature at the end of the day.
Well, Gabe, you know what? I didn't know this was going to happen, but I'm about to teach you something, my friend.
Let's go.
It's called always up for learning. It's called Irish Alzheimer's. And from the time you're old enough to remember, you forget everything except a grudge. And that's Irish Alzheimer's. I remember in 6th grade when Stewie called me
line right in front of you. Yeah.
A jerk right in front of Melissa. And I liked Melissa. She had nice hair. And she ended up marrying him. And I never forgot what he did to me. They have 7 kids.
So carry that torch today?
Yeah. Oh, every day, all day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I figure it's similar with doctors, only much smarter.
Yes, exactly.
But you know what always reminds me?
They just have more fancy words to throw at each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, they're still slinging poop just like the primates.
Oh,
it's just instead of poop, it's just better words. But at the end of the day, we're still bickering over nonsense.
Yeah.
But don't forget this too. It helps me stay grounded sometimes when I think about people who went to med school and stuff. I'm like, 50% of them finish at the bottom of their class. So they're not all geniuses. Okay?
Yeah. They doctors might tell the guy, oh, it's a 6 a.m. tea time, and they're playing at noon. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So you gotta warm up.
They're all liars.
All right.
Can you imagine?
60% of the time it works every time.
Every time.
That's good stuff. Well, we're 15 minutes away from
cut it out.
Yeah. So I told you this would go fast, right, Gabriel? Excuse me. I shorten your name. No. People call me Mike, and I hate when they truncate it.
I see.
So it's all good. But I definitely wanted to go through some of your work while you finish up.
Sure.
Also, if you want to hashtag Zygomatic Arch, we're going to be following that.
If you want to spell it, good luck.
But yeah, your work is super amazing, and just going through some of the things that you've done, I wanted to actually make mention of a couple things here. So let me do this.
Yeah, I was actually very humbled that you agreed to do the show, man. I'm honestly like a super fan of yours.
Yeah, we're geeking out over here.
Yeah, like
I love
talking.
Talking and working is one of my favorite things. I jump on Skype calls and or like I call my mom. It's like, oh, like we talked for like an hour, but it's like, it kind of keeps you engaged and working. So I mean, I love this.
Yeah, you almost don't think about what you're doing. Yeah, to me, it helps the process to just scrape away and talk.
Yeah.
Just talk. You're
and exactly. It's like one of my motivating factors for just thinking that this is a great format for like just making and having a conversation. It's just that I tend to do that myself. So I always have either a podcast going on or a debate. Like I want to hear 2 or 3 people arguing, and I'm not in the conversation, but I'm still kind of like, why? Like I'm almost like you're negotiating your perspective on the topic. And I feel like doing that in an open forum like this with other people who are also making, I feel like I'm not alone there, where like I'm sure there's a bunch of people that work when they have podcasts on.
Yeah, we were just had a question. What does he listen to while he works? Well, there you go. There's been a lot of debate within the last couple of years, for sure. Last 20 years, last 50 years. And Zygomatic Arch, yes, is a new band name. Yes, definitely. Or an album name at the very least. For sure. Well,
I need Zygomatic Arch support in my shoes.
I actually went to St. Louis inside the Zygomatic Arch.
Oh,
yeah. Thank you very much. So I definitely wanted to ask you about this. Like, at what stage is this?
This is a 3D
that's just
print.
hot
That's a
off
3D
the
print.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just off the printer. It's the skull of the Tong tribe, which if you don't have to come back to me, but on the left side of my screen in the background, there's that little fragmentary skull.
Mm-hmm.
So that fragmentary skull, I did a restoration of it based on comparative anatomy, and there's a paper that was published on it. So I produced that, I guess what you would call a reconstruction of the skull. Wow. And then I scanned that, and then I added the tissue depths that are part of a study that my colleague and I are attempting to get published right now.
Wow.
Very cool.
So the tissue depths, because I love seeing the forensic, pathology stuff where they're maybe that's not the correct word, but the forensic stuff where they have those tissue depth markers in there. They almost look like some of those circles. Yes. Yeah, on there. And so that to me, it just it exudes. Yeah, I gotta know a lot. But when it comes to that, so that's the muscle, the skin, the even if it's like, you're questioning how thick the skin potentially was in pre, hominid man, like those. Exactly. Thank you, Mick. So it's like I see that the tips of that is the skin level, right? Like where the muscle and the skin is.
Correct.
And you're building to that and then sculpting around it. So is it a uniform thing for, like, if I were to take a human skull, give you a human skull that I just happen to find buried in my backyard and hand it to you, you could tell me what that person looked like based on those markers?
See, you touched on a few things there, so let me unpack it.
Okay,
the first
yeah,
one was when you view this, you actually said something like very much very honest, and I think sometimes artists that do what I do, and even like people that call themselves scientists that do what I do, they will really, really play up on your read, so your expectation, the way that you see that. You said that it exudes like expertise or whatever, right?
Yeah, totally.
When it technically does, but sometimes people just use averages. Okay. And then they put that around, but then they signal that to you, and then they claim that like, oh, I nailed it. This is what he looks like, or this is what she looks like. And they don't really justify a lot of what their choices are. And that was actually what our latest paper was about, is that there's a lot of science-ish things that some reconstructors do. Okay. And then they're not forthcoming on how they got to step. It's like, have you seen that meme where it's like how to draw a face, step 1 and step 2, and step 2 is just done? They don't really explain. They signal these like tissue depths, but then they don't really tell you like what it really means, how they got them, where they derived them. So our what we used for this is basically what we did was called a regression analysis, which what that is you take a sample and you measure their skulls. So whatever that sample is, we did it on chimpanzees. So you measure the skulls, and you at various points on the, like from here to here, from the, like the furthest out points. You measure that on a select population. So I think for us, it was like about 20 of them, because that was how many CT scans we can get. So my colleague, Ryan Campbell, he's my partner in this. He did these measurements on the hard tissue, which is the skulls. And then he also measured the soft tissues. And then he ran it through basically it's like a light AI that tries to find correlations between the morphology of the bone and the shapes and thicknesses of the soft tissue. And correlations were found. And we thought this was going to be the case because there was already regression analysis done for humans, where a human skull can tell you a little bit about their actual tissue depths.
Okay.
So we did the same thing on chimps, and that's what we're trying to publish. But that still doesn't tell you exactly like what their features were like, what their lips were like. And I think that's just the future of our research, where we have to just systematically go through and justify every decision, because we feel like if we're going to be in the arena where our work is read as science,
right,
we shouldn't be in the business of just signaling the right things. Like, oh, I put the tissue depths, therefore I'm an expert. It doesn't work like that. So if I want my stuff in a museum, like a museum of natural history, I feel like I guess morally, I feel like I have to go through those hoops, which sadly, science isn't there yet. But that's also not just a sadly thing. It's exciting. Like there's still a lot of things we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And just reveling in that process and that goes back to that marble piece where she's veiled and covered up, and partially because there's so much that science just doesn't know about these creatures from so long ago. We're basically peering through a keyhole, and that keyhole is called science, but the room is still really dark. That doesn't mean there isn't a room. I still wholeheartedly accept evolution as a fact, but that still doesn't mean that we know everything yet. And I think it's just very exciting that we even get
That's actually really well said. I like that.
This is how you draw Bob Hope, by the way.
I see that.
That's how I learned.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this is actually in 5 steps, but it's usually truncated. People want to go, how can I do it in 2 steps?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I was trying to reference.
Yeah, it is so true. Like the drawing test, remember that? Drawing. Drawing. The drawing test that you would send out of the turtle to see if you had any artistic talent.
The turtle and the pirate.
Ended on that.
Yes.
Yeah, the turtle and the pirate.
Yep. I almost got into school that way.
Almost.
Almost.
They told you weren't good enough. Sons of bitches who was judging it.
Exactly. So,
Gabriel, do you? Let me ask you one other question, because we were talking before the show came on. You said you have a 3D sculpt of your own skull based on a CT scan.
Yeah. So it's sorry.
Yeah. No. So I've wanted that my whole damn life. And when you said you had one on your table, I'm like, what the hell's holding you back? I work for a company that makes CT scanners, so
literally,
I don't. At some point, I'm like, why aren't I doing that today? So I just want to know the process of what you went through to get that done. I know the 3D printer thing, but then how did you get the scan, and then how did you go from the scan to the print?
So interestingly enough, we did it because the paper that we were attempting to publish, we needed a CT scan of a human being to reference, just to show that the product, so like the results that we're using to reconstruct the chimpanzees and the more ape-like, simian-like ancestors, right? We just wanted to show that the equations don't work on a human. So I know of so obviously instead of going through like the ethics approval of getting like actual CT scans from like patients, because those exist, you just have to go through a lot of red tape.
Right.
You go through a lot of red tape. Then I had a colleague that they wish to remain unnamed.
Sure.
Because obviously, it's like a back alley kind of situation. Where we used a veterinarian CT scanner to scan myself. So it's like for a little dog to go in there, but we just used it for my head.
Yeah.
And then from there's just a program that reads and analyzes all those images that are taken of your head, and it can export STLs, which is stereolithography format for 3D files. And with an STL, you can get a 3D print. Like, what's crazy that print took about 5 days because it had to print everything, like on the inside too.
Oh boy,
Remember,
of course.
It's a scan of like your whole, I guess, being.
All the slices,
everything in there.
Yep. Okay.
Whereas like most models, they're hollow on the inside, so they're just like the outside is only what's printed, so those are quicker. But in this case, I had to print the inside of my brain case too, and all the stuff, and all the little particulates that are like floating in the data. So it took a long time to print, but I'm very glad that it did.
That's insane.
So I don't know, maybe when I turn 30, I might do like a self-portrait or something.
Well, my brain goes to so the science of it with those distances from your skull to the skin and knowing some of those depths that I would love to hand your skull to an expert effectively and see if he makes you. You know what I mean? If it how right on they are, because when I plan on being buried in the desert someday myself, when somebody digs me up and makes me into a forensic thing. I want to be able to see how close they get to this, No,
I know it's very interesting, but I also think that there's also from what I understand, there's debate in forensics itself that what they're getting at is not a likeness, but just like for the sense of identification, it's really, really fraught and subject to a lot of error and what you would call user inputs. So like what you want them to look like. I know that it's not popular to say that.
No, I totally get that.
But it totally is. It totally is at the end of the day.
So Matt, you could end up looking like Justin. You could look like Justin Bieber depending on what the artist's musical tastes are.
Right.
Yeah, actually. Exactly. But I think the answer to that is not just like, it's a fraud. It's more like, it just better science needs to be done in this arena. And I'm more than on board in the service of doing that.
I love it.
But in the meantime, they need noses. They need lips. So I'm going to put some on there. But
exactly.
At the end of the day, that's what I love about oil-based clay. I can change it. I can upgrade it, and that's how science works.
That is the best
science, you make models and you test them, and when they break down and there's a better model, you adopt that one.
Wow.
Awesome.
And on this picture, for instance, I mean, the lighting and the way you photograph this is just amazing. But when it comes to the skin, I mean, if it were, and this, of course, Lucy, if it wasn't a photograph of what we know as your sculpture, I'd be like, oh God, that's her. I mean, it's that amazingly real.
Thank you.
Oh God, that's so crazy.
Yeah, that was a part of my undergrad thesis. That one there, where taking photos of them became a part of the work.
Okay.
Where it's just like almost like pictures of family. So I framed them as if they were like someone's house frame, and they were just on the wall. So it's almost like pictures of one's family.
Wow.
So that was my thesis when I graduated my undergrad.
Yeah, I mean, and then the detail in this is just astounding.
That guy is back there on my screen. He's just off.
To
the left there. Yeah, that's the guy.
So so do you what 3D programs do you work in?
Mainly, I use Autodesk products. So they have a product called Maya that I use every now and then. There's also the one that I teach my students that I actually use from time to time because it's so easy to do certain things. It's called Autodesk Tinkercad. It's like you use it right on the browser. It's really like rudimentary, but sometimes that's good if all you need to do is build a very specific length, like for the pegs. I just use that because I can set it to be 9.734 millimeters. And that's what I need. And that program allows me to just do it like that. I also use Blender.
Oh, Blender is great.
Blender's a good one.
It's open source.
Yep.
Yeah. My son was actually learning in in an Autodesk thing, like in grade school. And I was like, oh my God, like where was that when I was a kid? I would have loved that.
It wasn't invented, Mickey.
It was. Yes, it was.
Okay. They didn't even have computers. They barely had
they barely had computers. Actually, I actually
they barely had electric light. Jesus.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
Indoor plumbing wasn't even real yet. Actually, sorry.
I don't think it is still a thing. Okay.
Now they have toilets that actually have computers, right? So
We all win.
Oh, I
But
feel like I'm missing out.
I mean,
Wow.
so we could spend so much time on all of this work. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. It's so in depth that yeah, it's nuts, because now we're just getting into the layers and stuff, because everybody kind of takes it for granted. It's like, the muscles and everything and the bones, but like, yeah, the veins, right? And then the epidermis over that. It's like, it's absolutely astounding. The level of detail that you do. This is some of your wax, right? Wax.
Hey,
that's
my
Clay.
dad. Shout out. To
Oh,
my
wow.
Oh, there he is.
dad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I love this portrait too. That's
That's
awesome.
my partner. She actually just left.
And
Oh, we could have compared. So now, can you drop back 2 pictures, please? Did you work on that with him? Is that your?
I cleaned up I was the dentist, so I cleaned up the teeth and like tidied up the details in there. But Ray did most of that sculpting.
Yeah,
Wow.
I got to see it. I got to see it in person. It was unbelievable.
Nice.
Yeah.
He did the majority. I was just there. Like, this was when I first moved out here, and I was kind of like, had no one here, and I was helping him out, getting ready for the Halloween season, and I was just in his studio a lot that first.
So most importantly, how did you feel about the move from Michigan to Arizona? I keep getting asked to move out to Arizona.
He's coming. We're going to get him out here.
I was born in Cuba, and lived and raised in Miami. So you can imagine I'm not exactly very attuned to the cold. So leaving the cold behind was definitely a big plus.
So it was like Miami without the disgusting humidity.
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I do miss the rain, but yeah, it comes at a price.
Yeah, you guys get the rain all at once. I thought that was cool, seeing all those giant washes or whatever they're called.
The monsoons. Yeah, we get monsoons every year.
I'm like, what do you need
flash floods?
Yeah.
Flash floods for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it out there. I don't know if I could live there.
Wow, look at that. Wait, go back, Mickey. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen that. How big are those?
Chess set I was making. Those are
okay.
1/6 scale. So if they were to go on a GI Joe, so a GI Joe set.
Oh wow.
Okay, yeah. That looks awesome.
But I was gonna make them into like little chess pieces. So that's like Charles Darwin there, Thomas Paine, Bertrand Russell. I think Stephen Hawking's on the left there, but without the glasses.
Oh yeah.
So it was like a little chess set of like scientific figures and philosophical figures.
Okay.
Like, this was during the time where all I was doing was absorbing either lectures or audiobooks on certain subjects during my little time of discovery as an angsty 19-year-old.
Yeah.
So Mickey, John Davis, our good friend John, has a great question for Gabriel.
Oh,
What's up?
Let's
hear it.
I might have missed this, but where did you go for your undergrad, and what was your major?
So I guess I should answer that question by saying that I went to a high school that was pretty unique in Miami. I was it was very lucky that there was even an institution like that around, but it's called New World School of the Arts. So it's basically a school where it's regular high school, but instead of electives, you have 3 hours of a particular art form at the end of the day. So
wow,
that's awesome.
So I was always art three hours a day, and it was like almost like block schedule. So like Monday, Wednesday you do drawing, Tuesday, Thursday painting, and then Friday is like sculpture. Let's say. So I had that for 4 years. That was great for my, it's kind of like a pipeline school where like after this you're going to art school. It's just like predetermined. There's one of those like magnet programs. So you have to audition to get in there.
Oh,
but
wow.
after that,
cool.
The scouts from College for Creative Studies, which is like one of the leading art schools in the country. They're mostly like design oriented in terms of either character design for entertainment arts, which is what originally like wanted me to join. Because at the time I was like really much into the character sculpting and character creating, and that's kind of like what I wanted to do, And so that school kind of just recruited me, like said, hey, full ride if you leave Miami behind. So I said, all right, let's go.
Full ride's good.
There was another school I was going to go to, which is Art Center. Luckily, I didn't go because Art Center has, I guess, less of a. It didn't matter anyways, because what I went to for college for, I kind of not dropped out of, but I switched out. So I was in the illustration department, which is like for characters, for paintings. I was a painter originally, right?
Yeah.
And so
Art Center's out here in Los Angeles, right? Pasadena. It's
exactly,
right
Pasadena. Yeah. So I almost went there. Deal wasn't as good. It was almost a full ride, but I was like, I don't want to worry about money. So,
yeah, if you get a full ride, that's the right ride to take.
And I still say that to this day. I wish I didn't have to worry about money.
Well, I mean, I still worry about money now, especially after quitting Ford, but it's all right. It's just part of the gig. I get to sculpt every day, though.
Paul, you could become an art scout.
I could be me?
Yeah.
An art scout.
I would love the day where I get to actually say, you're good enough and you're not good enough. And nobody ever points the finger or thumbs at me. That's the dream job, right? That's management.
Oh my God. I never even heard of that.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I'm holding up for a management position.
After a year, I met Cheeto Johnson, that instructor that I told you about. That kind of like He stomped my, I guess, smugness, where I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna be the best portrait artist ever. He was like, yeah, but who cares? Like, someone already did that 200 years ago. Like, you're not gonna just do the same thing and find success. So he kind of challenged me, and then I kind of liked that, and I switched to fine arts, which is, I guess, is a very general major, but within it, it had a sculpture focus where I was doing nothing but sculpture all the time. And then for better or worse, but I think definitely for better, Ford kind of just like plucked me out because they were hiring and they wanted sculptors, and I had already, like, I'd done a class that taught me some of the things that I was going to eventually do, because CCS taught a class on automotive modeling. So I took that class, and at the end of that class, Ford came knocking, at the age of 22, a steady income, doing some clay work sounds really good. So I took it.
Yeah.
Where did you do that?
I could stay.
Is that in Detroit?
Dearborn, right there. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like Dearborn.
I know what Dearborn is.
Oh, yeah.
So Dearborn is like just outside of Detroit. Usually people even just call it Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like where the Henry Ford Museum is, if anyone's around there. It's literally across the street from the Henry Ford Museum.
Oh, wow.
Is where they designed the cars.
Well, let's take it around the room before we take off. I'll go with Matt. Matt, do you want to go first?
What?
Oh God!
All right. So this is my right now. He's not all that. All that's what's the word he has to be? He has to be
maniacal.
So carved. Well, so he's gonna have this eyebrow kind of come up a little bit more, but right now I'm just really hyper focused on this brow. So I'm trying to get that perfect, and then a big schnoz on him. The mouth I think will change, but at this point he's coming along. He's got some long hair. He's a really he uses a lot of really good hair product from way back then. Right now it's flowing, but I might mess it up.
A metrosexual caveman. Nicely done.
Yeah, that's why he's so maniacal.
That's like Matthew McConaughey.
Hello.
Oh, hello. No, all right. I got a ton of blocking out to do, obviously. I'm trying to keep the nose wide, the brow over, the eyes a little further apart. Now, Gabriel, do you agree the eyes were further apart on early humans? Because I feel like they were.
No, it looks pretty good. It looks good. It's got some nice flavor there. Like how it was lit a second ago. Like, can you lean it forward a little bit?
This way or that way?
No, the other way. Yeah, not that way.
That's yeah.
Oh, that looks so good. Yeah, it's the creasing around the brow. The thing I'm struggling to do right now. It's definitely up there.
Don't worry, I'll screw it up. Anytime.
All right, on to screwing it up.
Yeah, that's all going to be gone. I already busted through on the top. Yeah. I'll find a whole domicile. Maybe he'll be getting eaten by that. I don't want to sign myself up for anything too much.
Oh, look at that!
Look at that! Come on!
Wow.
I can't believe you started that when we started.
How are you that far along? Mike, rewind the tape. Rewind the tape.
Yeah, rewind it.
Yeah, all the steps have been recorded. Just follow along.
Well, normally I would say you're 3 hours ahead, but Matt's and Mickey are out there, so I can't use that excuse.
Yeah, maybe I'll keep going on this guy, and I'll send you all an updated image.
Yes, please
Yes.
do. Please do. We'll definitely share it.
He's still looking.
We'll
He's
share
looking a
it.
little soft. I'm also breaking my cardinal rule. Should always have reference. I'm not looking at anything.
Oh,
Yeah, same
So
here. Same
'cause
here.
I'm really not happy here with like the mouth. So I just need to look at a good mouth that's more like maybe like
Like
maybe some teeth showing. Maybe some teeth showing. Well, he's maniacal, right? So I don't know. Maybe like
I
he's
don't know.
growling.
It still looks pretty solid, I think.
I mean, you
It
could
looks
break
pretty
the cardinal
maniacal.
rule, and you could actually finish it up and trade me for a bottle of New England gin. I mean, just throwing it out. Got to beat Harper to the punch. That guy's just
Damn it.
I know.
that guy's maniacal.
This guy, me,
You son of a gun.
you son of a.
So it's a couple days late, but May the 4th
Yes.
be with you.
Oh my God.
An amazing sculpture here. So, if you want to see more of Gabriel's work, please check out his Instagram. But is there anywhere else that we can find you, Gabriel?
Not at the. I mean, I have a Facebook, but that's mostly for family and friends. But I'm kind of in the process of starting maybe a channel or something where I do more of the sculpting. Maybe it is live, kind of like this. People coming in and out and having conversation. So when that goes up, maybe I'll re-enter the arena, and then we could plug it then. But at the moment, if you want to reach me and see my work, that is where it is.
Do you sell anything of your work?
Right now, since I'm in basically 100% production mode, especially since I just closed off the semester with my students last week, I'm going to be in full production mode to mount my thesis exhibition, which is in November the 12th. At ASU. So right now I'm going to be making a lot of things, and obviously, I mean, in a gallery they'll be up for sale. It's just right now I'm not really worried about like things that are, ready to sell right now. I'm more into production mode where this thing has to be mounted and it has to look fantastic, and hopefully the money will come later. But right now I'm more like invested in the making.
Yes, very cool.
Well, your work is fascinating, and we really enjoyed having you on. We definitely want to have you on again very soon. We usually like to have our cavalcade of stars right before Halloween, so we'll definitely reach out to you and want to see what you're working on. This is where you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. Matt, did you have anything that you wanted to close out the show with?
I did. Yeah, there's a guy named Gabriel that I want you guys to follow. And if you don't, you're sorely losing here, because he's a huge inspiration to both Paul and I. And I'm super grateful you came on and chatted with us, and I'd love to have you back on anytime. This has just been a treat for me.
I really love being here. Thank you so much for reaching out, Paul. And it just seemed like right when you described it, I was like, yeah, this is perfect. I'm already talking to myself in my head when I'm listening to podcasts. Might as well speak too,
Yeah, man. I honestly, it's been when you actually got back to me, and then we had a great back and forth. I'm like, this guy's made to hang out with us. Like, he's perfect for the show. It's what the show's about, right? It's reaching out to other artists and just picking their brain and getting to learn and drinking beer or gin and just having a good time. Like, everybody out there, like, it's the best time ever to if you're stuck at home. I mean, I know there's still restrictions, but we're reaching out to some of our favorite artists, and these guys are just phenomenal people in general, and popping right back to us. So Gabe, hats off to you, man. This was phenomenal. It's like we've talked to you 1,000 times, and it's the first time I've ever talked to you.
It's very amenable, very nice.
Yeah, it's so easy to talk to. It's been a privilege, man. I appreciate it. I really do.
Likewise.
Yeah,
and I'll expect to see that in the mail, and I will shoot you a bottle of gin and some really good gin from Massachusetts.
Yes. So we will be back next Thursday. We have another great show of Carvers and Creators for you. 4
Mickey,
p.m.
you want to tell them who it is?
I know that we had a change, but it's a former guest, correct?
What? No.
Am I
a couple
wrong
of brothers.
Oh, I'm ahead of myself. I'm
Good.
sorry.
Good thing Mickey's in charge of the schedule, y'all.
Holy Moses!
I don't know. What is today? Thursday?
I thought it was Tuesday.
Don't we have a show to do today?
Shit, we're late.
No, go ahead. Please tell me.
I don't know. Whoever it is, it doesn't matter. But we will be back next Thursday. That's for sure.
Yeah.
With another amazing show with a tremendous guest.
Yeah.
Couple of guests.
Yes. So we'll definitely be promoting that on our social media. So follow us there. And we will see you next Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern for Carvers and Creators. Thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you.
All right.
Eat your hearts out,
Great.
everybody. I get to watch Gabe continue on this after we're done.
All right. Good night. Take care.
Night, everybody.
And we are.